Heyo, welcome back. You know my next guest tonight is a full-time engineer at Nike, a content creator, and is the host of a brand new podcast, Cuentame Con Sonia Camacho. Please welcome the one and only Sonia Camacho. Sonia, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be on the show. It's really cool what you guys are doing.
We've both been back from SHPE National Convention at Salt Lake City, which was about, I want to say a month and a half ago-ish.
Yeah, it's already flown by. Yeah.
Exactly. So how have you been doing?
I've been good. Before SHPE, I was actually in LA and New York, and I actually leave to LA again tomorrow. So I'm always on the go. So I'm doing the best that I can, but we're getting shit done, and so that's
the first time I have ever heard a full-time engineer being committed to being honest about oneself. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is it's very rare within the engineering community, but I'm just really glad that this is a fun one, because the year has rolled by so far. 2023 has been quite remarkable and forgettable for some people, but you had a very productive year so far. As I mentioned earlier, you're a full-time engineer. You're also the host of Cuentame Con Sonia Camacho's podcast. You launched your very first episode on mid-January of this year. So 2023 had a lot of amazing beginnings from that and on. You've attended several conferences like the SHPE Nationals. Interestingly enough, my past guests have kind of expressed their jealousy that they never get to have this experience of partying with 1,500 Latinos, in a nightclub, which is very hard to quantify because there's only so much room that you can have at a nightclub. But overall, how has the year been so far for you as an engineer?
Honestly, I haven't thought about that. That's a really good question to reflect on. I think this past year has been challenging, which you may not expect from my social media and everything, because obviously social media is like a highlight reel. But I just hit 1 year at Nike. I started my podcast, like you mentioned. I've been working on brand deals and on my social media. And then on top of that, just learning how to be an adult, because I only graduated in 2022. And, it's like my first time in an apartment, living alone, all of that. So it's been really challenging, but extremely rewarding. And I think, there's one of my favorite sayings is nothing worth having comes easy. And I feel like I've really been learning that a lot this past year. It's it's not going to be an easy road, this adult life, but it's definitely worth it if I put in the work. So it's been pretty good.
As somebody who is looking to graduating next semester, and I really find myself that I'm at a tipping point in my life where, reality is starting to stick in for not just me, but many other of my colleagues who are also engineers too. And you often tend to think about what can I do beyond that chapter that I just suddenly wrapped up, or at least that's what, my campus says so. For many folks, they usually have a great start. They land on their first entry-level full-time job, and others have other commitments in life. And for the rest, they start their own small businesses or start new gig jobs. But now you graduated from OSU as a computer science major last year. Can you walk us through how you navigated post-grad life in the shaky job market?
In 2021, I interned with Nike for a global technology software engineering position. And then I was offered a full-time role starting in 2022 after my master's program. So I came back to Nike and I moved out to Beaverton in 2022, September, I think. And I kind of have I guess you could say predictable story. I just go straight from school to my full-time role. And so honestly, I've been very blessed to have that that timeline, because I know a lot of people, the job hunt, or, you know, like you said, other commitments, like whether it's a dog or a kid or whatever, you know, a lot of people have a lot of things going on. But I was really blessed to just kind of be given the opportunity to, right after school, I had like 3 months to take a break. And then I came and I started in September of 2022. So it's honestly been, yeah, I guess it hits me every once in a while, like, wow, like we are in the post-grad life, like we're going to be working the rest of our life now. But I think that for me, it was always kind of like the plan. Like it's always what you see in movies or like what you read about in books. It's like that's like the more traditional path, I guess I should say. It's not predictable, it's more traditional. And so yeah, it's been pretty good. Like I said, it's just a little bit challenging navigating like being all on your own, but I'm very lucky that my family is in Salem, which is only like an hour away from here. So I
West
always,
Coast.
yeah, West Coast, and then I've got family in the Bay in LA. So it's
Hey.
I'm a West Coast girl for sure.
We all feel like we belong to the West Coast, you know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
it's like the homeland where the real talent, you know, comes to power. But can you tell us just some of the favorite highlights throughout your college experience? And a follow-up question to that, like, did you ever think that you would even step foot on Nike, like
Yeah.
before you even got to college?
I'm from Oregon, so I've always known of Nike as like a big company that's here. But growing up, it's not that we couldn't like afford Nike, but like, well, I guess I don't know. Like I never got Nike. Like this hoodie that I'm wearing. It's for the listeners. It's a crew neck, you know, plain black crew neck with the swoosh, and it was probably like $50. And I remember like, you know, back when I was younger, that was way too much money, and so I never actually really wore um like a ton of Nike growing up, other than the sports uniforms that we had at school. So it was never really like on my radar in that sense, because it was just like, oh yeah, it's like such a big company. And obviously I like admired it. I was like, it's so cool. It would be nice to have like that hoodie, or you know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
when I went to college, I knew I had a passion for STEM and technology, but also fashion. If you guys follow my TikTok, a lot of it is like get dressed with me. Like I love styling pieces, and it's always been an interest of mine. So when I was in college and I was applying for internships, I learned that companies like Macy's, Kohl's, you know, Bloomingdale's, even like makeup brands like L'Oreal, they need software engineers too. And I never really like put that together of like, oh, like these fashion and beauty brands need more tech savvy people too. So I think that's kind of like where the marriage of my passions kind of came. And that's one of my friends. He had interned at Nike in 2019. And that's what really put it on the radar for me of like, oh, there's internships like local that are at these big companies. And he actually applied when it was more like low key, like there wasn't that many applicants and everything. And I feel like I was kind of in that same boat of like, I applied, I applied and got rejected my junior year. I feel like that's a part of my story that I don't tell a lot is I
And that
actually
was
got,
your first time that you applied to Nike, right? Or was it from a different
yeah,
company?
no, it was my first time applying to Nike for the internship
Mm.
my junior year, and I got rejected. I made it to the last round and I was rejected, and it was so sad. But I ended up studying really hard so that when I came back for the next year, I ended up getting the offer. But that's kind of like I guess my friend is the reason why Nike's even like was an option for me. And so college was good. I feel like I was stressed out all the time though. I think back a lot on like my mental health and who I just the type of person I was. And I was very unhappy. I feel like I was always angry. I don't know why. I was just always mad because like my classes were hard. I would see other people having so much fun doing other things. But I mean, all the hard work paid off, and there were great times in college as well. But I think that it's important for listeners to hear, like, if you do feel this like overwhelming like emotion of anger or like whatever it may be, like this doubt, it it's only for a matter of time, and things do get better. I can definitely speak on that from experience.
I don't know if Nike is a sponsor. Is Nike a sponsor of the show? Okay, good. They're not a sponsor of the show because I was about to point out right off the air, if you had gotten rejected again, right, for the second time, perhaps, right, then they probably wouldn't afford your Nike apparel. That I can bet would happen in just a tip of a button. Let you create your own designs and then, see which one comes out on top. I bet I bet that's how far Air Force Ones have gotten recently. Now I know why. Now I know why they're still around. You mentioned something incredible, right? When we are overwhelmed with typical responsibilities of a college student, and because of this nonstop myth about engineering being like the hardest discipline in any career that you can think of, it does remind me of that similar experience that I had where there were several occasions that even my professors have basically just laid out their recipe for success, if they will. And oftentimes I don't try to follow it because I was the one who was also a bit angry, right? And I was trying to find like just the biggest flaw out of all those recipes. And it turns out that the biggest flaw of that was that they didn't have a TikTok like I do.
Anyway, now that you're at Nike,
one of the most daring questions I have to ask is,
will the next gen of Nike shoes make us actually fly?
I have no idea. I'm a software engineer. I get so many DMs like asking about different parts of the business, and it's a huge company. So who knows? Maybe one day we'll have like jetpacks on our shoes and we'll fly.
Can it be possible to be programmed? Like, is it possible for these like jet fuels to be programmed? Because I would imagine like, the NBA has marketed for so long that, if we invest in Air Jordans that actually make basketball players fly, then it can make anybody fly. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just curious to know like if Nike is maybe heading in that direction. I'm not sure like what you're allowed to speak about that, but I'm just curious from your end, like
if I knew anything,
would it be possible?
If I knew anything, I couldn't talk about it, but I also don't know anything. So yeah, who knows?
They have yet to reveal their secrets, just like WikiLeaks. But at the very top, one of the other spotlights that you've earned throughout this year was that you were featured in one of the most iconic books. And it's hard for me to understand why this is not a New York Times bestseller. But I'm talking about, of course, you being featured in this upcoming book,
Extraordinary Engineers, Volume 1, Female Engineers of This Day and Time.
How did you find out that you were going to be featured, in this book? And if so, like, what does being a part of this book, mostly by sharing your story, say about the state of Latina engineers, like in the country?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Sometimes I forget about the accomplishments that I've had in a year and everything. So it's nice to kind of reflect back on everything. And this year really has been a year of milestones. I was in a magazine, I was in a book, I've been on countless podcasts. And so, it's been really surreal to think that someone could like go to Barnes and Nobles or wherever and pick up this book and see someone who looks like them, talks like them, acts like them, and is in the position that I'm in. So I think for me, like kind of what it means for Latinas and STEM all over is just like that there is representation, and we're slowly making it more noticeable, and it's hopeful, I guess you could say. Like to me, there's so much hope in the sense that someone may hear my story and potentially take a computer science class or, a math class or whatever it may be. And I think that's what it's all about, is all of these magazines, these books, all of them. It's all about making the next generation know what they're capable of by sharing our stories. So it's really, like I said, a surreal moment to know that my story is even one that people would want to even hear or read about. And so, yeah, it's been great.
It's clearly impossible for me to just like grasp the notion that this never made it to the New York Times bestseller. But as I've been told, right, by one of the documents that was leaked by the New York Times, this could be the case. So who knows? Who knows? We may come across a point, where you may be in one of the New York Times best-selling book lists.
Yeah.
And this is definitely a must-read. For those who don't know, this book features a lot of great testimonies from not only like Latina engineers, but also women in STEM, who really set the foundation for being self-determinant on all walks of life, whether it is, life at work, or whether it's like balancing priorities in life, and also addressing some of the stereotypes that women engineers often deal with. I do know that here on campus, we do have the Society of Women Engineers chapter.
Awesome.
And they just had their own convention.
Yeah.
A few weeks before shifted.
Yeah.
Right. So it was very so this should definitely be, included in the New York Times best-selling list, unless it is rigged by New York Times themselves, and I'm not sure what to say about that. Speaking of Latina engineers, trying to gain ground in this like competitive territory of like, engineers, across, all sectors, the public and private sector.
We have a clip here where you were still an undergrad at Oregon State University, and you were complaining that there was not a lot of platforms like you have at the time. So let's time travel back and see how far things have changed and whether or not you may have sparked a movement. Take a listen.
I remember Googling or like YouTubing vlogs, girls in CS. Like I would literally type in Latina girl, CS major, week in my life, and nothing comes up. And so I was just kind of thinking, why not do that now? And it did take me an entire year to start this.
Now that you're a celebrity engineer, how did we do?
I think we did really well, and I think there's been a lot more people jumping on the day in the life and content creation, and it's really weird to see this clip back. I totally forgot about this video, and it makes me so proud of myself, because I'm like, we did it. Like we were able to document life in school, and now working here as like a full-time engineer, and the messages that I get in my DMs of people being like, oh my gosh, it's so great to see like what your life looks like at Nike and everything. If you would have told me in this clip 4 years ago, like where we are now, I don't know if she would have believed you. So it's really sweet to hear.
Now, for the sake of transparency, were you angry at the time?
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw it more of like oh, do you mean like?
Yes, at the time when you admitted to the public that this shit's about to go down, were you angry at the time?
Yeah, I guess. Like I more so saw, I was like excited. I saw this opportunity.
Excited. There you go.
Yeah.
Excited is the word that I was looking for. We have never seen this much of a progression in terms of, increasing diversity within the field of engineering. This is something that I have been pounding my head, since the day I have decided to be an environmental engineering major, for all the wrong reasons. But most importantly, there is always room for improvement, along fronts. And I believe the rate of graduation amongst Hispanic engineers accelerate by 20%, for the past 3 years. Out of nowhere, they point out that videos like yours may have sparked those numbers up. And so I was wondering,
what do you make of that?
Yeah, I think that's crazy. I mean, I've always said like the goal of my content is to help one person. Like if it helps one person, then, I've hit my goal. So I think that is just very reassuring and lets me know to keep going,
And now to the real part.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that, this is something that I would never admit, to my younger self 4 years ago. But just by being surrounded with 13,000 other Latino engineers in this confined stadium. Yes, they call it a convention center, but it was designed to be a stadium where people could just run up everywhere.
Yeah.
And you're more likely to crash into the person next to you that you may or may not know of. And on one of those occasions, I have ran across some of the alumni that I hoped I would never see because of some pranks that have happened to me. But here we are now, looking back at the convention. You were also at the SHIP National Convention 2023 as a content creator.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is true, but you were also at last year's SHIP Nationals, but as a SHIPfluencer. And now that you're a content creator here, this was you right there.
Yeah.
With all, your other content creators that were supposedly bribed with Air Force Ones just to make it to Salt Lake City. I'm going to try my best to recall who these people are. I may have ran across one of them. But I believe on the right, that's Diana right there. And this is Jay as Elio on the back. And that is you on front page news, technically. Did you see yourself approach the job as a content creator differently in this conference from what you did as a SHIPfluencer back at last year's convention?
So it's like the same thing. We just changed the title. But yeah, they're the same.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's odd.
But because, influencer has a certain connotation to it of like, maybe stuck up or like whatever. And we just want to help people by putting out content. So we're just content creators. So honestly, the convention is like such a highlight of the year. And it means the world that SHIP National invites us to go and kind of like hype up the convention, let people know what kind of opportunities that there are. This year I was also able to speak on a panel and moderate a panel too. So it's just really cool to see SHIP give us this much trust, I guess you could say, by inviting us and trusting us to network and help others and mentor people. So this has been, I think, one of the biggest, it's the biggest accomplishment I think I've done in my content creation journey because, they take us along to this, like you said, 13,000 people attend this convention. It's a massive event. I've done other things, like I've gone to Puerto Rico to be like robotics, not a judge, but was like a content creator for a robotics competition. And so I think it's those events in life that kind of are pinch me moments of like, wow, this is what the content creation, like it all has paid off because I'm actually making it to these big kind of events and seeing that,
Now, how often do you hang out with these people?
At least twice a year. I love this crew. They are crazy and they are so educated. They are so extremely educated, but they know how to party and have fun.
By knowing how to party, can you elaborate a little bit more on what that means for you guys? Because I'm sure for maybe the other crowd was also doing a similar thing as knowing how to party. How would you describe that in your own words from that sense? Like, how would you, do you remember like the last time you were there and you pretty much said to yourself, if I ever get a chance, to meet like Beyonce, right? Or if freaking Taylor Swift just crashes onto the conference, would that probably be the best highlight for you?
I guess, yeah. I think there's something so fun about being with people that you might not always see every weekend, but like being on the dance floor with them, going to dinners all together and everything and like dressing up. It's just such a fun moment. I know so many students were just like jumping up and down, like crowd surfing and just being crazy and like letting loose after kind of like, because for us, we're there working, right? We're there creating content. We have deadlines and deliverables. And as students there, it's like you're networking, you're trying to make connections and, potentially get a job. And so I think like at the end, when we're all just able to like listen to music and hear about people's offers and things like that. This is just like the best. That's the party part of the national convention, when everything kind of goes away and you're just in the moment for once.
Now, you mentioned earlier that these are your best friends, technically. Diana just came out with its own commercial with Toyota, featured on Univision.
Yeah.
First of all, are you jealous of that? And second of all, do you see yourself making your own commercial soon?
I would hope I could do a commercial. I know a lot of people, Joanne, Katya, my friend Kiara, Diana, they've all done commercials now. And I think that I'm so incredibly happy for them. Of course, I would love to do my own. So I don't know if you would call it jealousy more than admiration, I guess.
All right. I think that's how far humanity has done, and say about 5 years from now. And then lastly, you started your own podcast this year. It's called Cuentame Con Sonia Camacho. And here's something that I think is going to put a lot of people on the back seats, right? As they tune into your show. But for those who don't know, your show features a lot of great, talented Latino folks from all walks of life to just share their testimonies and struggles with being a Latino, I guess, in America. And what I found very interesting from there is that most of the guests were always blunt and they were always true to themselves, which is something that many of us students need, I guess, to persevere on. But one of the trending guests was Desi Hollow, the great West Coast G-Funk rapper, was on your show as well. And for those who don't know, he's from Oceanside as well, and he's always on my playlist, first thing, right? Because to me, he belongs to the 90s. I remember him saying that he will soon stop by Oregon to perform. He just had one actually this year on July 30th down at Salem, Oregon. Now the $1 million question is, did you go to his concert?
I was actually out of town, but I love his management team. They're such good people. I've actually known Desi for a few years now. Before he really blew up, I was one of his first listeners, and he was my Spotify rap #1, and we would DM all the time. It was yeah, so that's kind of how I invited him on the show, because I was like, hey, I'm coming out with this podcast. I think you'd be perfect. But yeah, seeing his growth has been insane in the past few years. He has taken off. The numbers are crazy.
Would you be willing to be featured in one of his songs?
Of course. I would totally. I would sing on the song. I would be in the music video. I don't care, whatever he wants.
What do you look forward to in 2024?
I'm excited to just see how hard I can work and produce more opportunities, because this has been great to reflect on everything that happened in 2023, but sometimes I'm I forget. I forget I was in a magazine. I forget I was on a podcast, and I just want to be able to maybe make more of an effort to write down the good things that are happening and see my blessings as they come, and try and make more opportunities for myself, but also for others. I've been mentoring students a lot more recently, and I think that I want to give back now that I've officially been in my career for a year, and I want to be able to help other people navigate, school and career and all that. So I think that's my goals for 2024, is work hard and help others.
This was Sonia Camacho. She is a full-time engineer, a content creator, and the host of Cuentame Con Sonia Camacho. Sonia, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
We'll be right back with a quick commercial.
This may look like a holiday shopping showdown, but it's a Nissan sales event ad. Good thing my Rogue has intelligent all-wheel drive.
So does my Altima. Now get a low $339 per month lease on Rogue or get 0% APR financing for 36 months on the Pathfinder Platinum. Better hurry. These offers won't be back in stock.